The thing that I love most about Lauren is how full of life she is, the empathy that she has for others, her big, gorgeous smile, how funny she is, how smart she is. She's somebody who is a lot of fun to be around, and she makes me really happy. Hi, my name's Rob, and I am Lauren's partner, fiance, soon-to-be husband, lover. Lauren lives with schizoaffective disorder, which is a combination of schizophrenia and, in her case, bipolar. And together we make the videos on this YouTube channel. Usually I'm the one that's behind the camera and Lauren is the one sitting here. So I'm under the hot lights today. Today I'm going to be talking about what it's like to be in a romantic relationship with her. But first, if you want to help support the creation of videos like this and future videos, make sure to check out the link to our Patreon page. The link is just in the description below. Also, make sure to subscribe and don't forget to turn on the bell notification. People sometimes assume that because Lauren has schizophrenia that I must also have schizophrenia. And that's not the case. I don't have schizophrenia. It is possible for people who have schizophrenia to be in relationships with people who don't have schizophrenia. But it's been a bit of a journey coming to understand how schizophrenia affects her life and our life together and how to grow a healthy relationship that accommodates when one person has a chronic mental illness. So the first thing that I'm going to talk about is hallucinations and delusions, because I think that that's maybe the first thing that people would wonder about, like what it's like having a partner who has hallucinations and delusions. So first of all, hallucinations and delusions are known as the positive symptoms, as in they're kind of like in addition to regular behavior. And I'm just bringing this up because I'm going to talk about negative symptoms a little bit later. So on a day-to-day basis, this isn't something that comes up a lot, actually. Lauren and I'll ask Lauren about it sometimes, occasionally, like, have you hallucinated lately? Like, what, like, has it been voices? What have you, and she'll tell me, like, what's kind of been going on, if she's been hallucinating, or often it's just like, there hasn't really been anything happening. For the most part, it's not something I think that either of us dwell on. In terms of not dwelling on it, I think there's kind of this aspect of, knowing that she doesn't want to talk about like all of the things that she is hallucinating about or has delusions about. It's something that she, it's a personal thing. And so you wanting to respect that, but also knowing that like she can totally check in with me about anything. And if she needs to reality check just in case she is hallucinating something and she wants to know, is that real or not? She knows that she can come to me with that. And then, yeah, just kind of keeping it pretty low key in terms of just checking in with her occasionally, like to see if she's hallucinating or not. It's usually kind of like almost like a once a week type of a thing. It doesn't happen very often. Now, the situation is a little bit different when things get bad. So usually this would be a situation like where she's not on her medication and she's either in psychosis or kind of like on her way into that. And then it's easier to see when she is hallucinating, like she'll be very easily distracted in conversation. It's like you can tell that she's listening to somebody else. But that is really only when she's kind of in full-blown psychosis. And, there have only been, I would say, like a couple of instances or episodes like that in the duration of our relationship. And so when things kind of get to that point where I can tell that she's very distracted by hallucinations, she's kind of paranoid. Like it's not just hallucinations, it's also, I would say, paranoia. That's kind of a good indication of like when it's time to get help, or that she needs help. I haven't talked a lot about delusions, but that kind of looks like paranoia. It's usually that like doctors are trying to control her, or like fear of police. Sometimes it's fear of being like poisoned in food, that kind of thing. And these are also like pretty well managed on a day-to-day basis. And it's, they only really become like being preoccupied with it when she's in a psychotic episode. So overall, with respect to hallucinations and delusions, it's not something that really encompasses our reality on like a day-to-day basis. It's really, I think, a lot more like of a very occasional thing, and when things are not well. And Lauren knows that she can check in with me and reality check with me if she needs. Okay, so moving on to negative symptoms. So for Lauren, that looks more like sleeping a lot, lethargy, lack of like self-care, flatter affect, kind of more of like a depressive state. And actually, this is kind of like what I would say we deal with more on like a day-to-day basis. And that is something that is kind of, what, like earlier on in our relationship, I kind of thought that these sorts of symptoms would be like, they would come and then they would go away. But I think the reality of like what it's actually like is it's more like it's there almost all the time, and sometimes it's worse and sometimes it's better. It's kind of gotten to the point where I can almost just look at Lauren right now and just roughly know like how she's doing. So dealing with the negative symptoms on a day-to-day basis has probably actually been kind of the most difficult challenge that we faced in our relationship. So in the beginning, I think that I really misinterpreted things. I kind of felt that like when she had more of the negative symptoms and the flatter affect and just kind of wanting to like self-isolate sometimes, that she was upset with me or mad with me or disappointed with me in some way. So that, I kind of felt hurt by that. And at the same time, I was feeling like worried about her and powerless to do anything. And so it created this really tense situation that actually like ended up leading to conflict a lot of times and was really kind of difficult to manage. I'm also someone who likes to stay productive in terms of like work and life and playing. And I found that it was kind of frustrating learning how to accommodate a situation where plans might change because Lauren's not feeling well, or it's difficult to make plans, just kind of knowing like, or not knowing how things might be on a certain day. The solution to this problem, just kind of like the solution to the previous problem in terms of misinterpretation of feelings, the solution to it all has really just been for us to be a lot better, I think, in terms of our communication with each other and being a lot more open about what it is that we need. And I think that that's helped a lot. I think we're a lot more able to kind of navigate these situations in a way that is a lot healthier and is a lot and accommodates the situation more. I think that another element of this might just be that we kind of had to work through those kinds of difficult situations to know that we can get through these situations together, and that we now have more of a foundation for knowing that like, okay, things might not be great, but we're going to get through this. It's just a bad day. Okay, the next topic that I kind of want to shift to is about medication. So for Lauren, the medication helps her manage the positive symptoms, so the hallucinations and delusions. And it doesn't really help that much with the negative symptoms. And actually, some of the side effects of the medications, I think, contribute to kind of like the negative symptoms. And so that the side effects are kind of a difficult thing to deal with. But overall, I think that medications are kind of necessary in terms of helping her manage not falling into psychosis. So it's a bit of a complicated situation because Lauren has kind of delusions around medication in terms of feeling like they could be used to control her, or that they are poison. And this isn't like, this isn't all the time. This is a lot more like when she is unwell and she's in psychosis, that those delusions are really strong. For the most part, I don't think that that's something that is a major preoccupation. But I know that it's a delusion that exists. And then, in combination with the fact that like the medication has side effects, and that's another reason why she struggles to take her medication or doesn't want to take her medication. Now, early on in our relationship, I found this situation a little bit frustrating because even though, I have an understanding that like that's how she feels about medication and their side effects and whatnot, I feel like medication helps her stay out of the hospital, helps her manage the like strong positive symptoms. And so I felt like it was important for her to be taking her medication. And when she didn't want to take her medication or stop taking medication, it kind of felt selfish to me because it felt like she wasn't caring about, how it was going to affect the various supportive people in her life, if and like when she lands back in the hospital because of not taking medication. I feel at this point we've kind of landed in the middle, and Lauren has developed more of an understanding of like what happens when she stops taking medication and how it affects the various people in her life. And I have a greater sympathy for the difficulty and struggles of needing to take that medication. So the role that I play right now, I would say, is a lot more of just like a nightly reminder, like, hey, did you take your medication? I help her pick up her meds sometimes. I help her fill up her pill box like every couple weeks, because I know that that's like, in the past, it's kind of been a challenge just in terms of like, oh, I ran out of medication, so that's why I stopped medication. So just trying to remove the like the work of taking medication and assist her with that. But it's not like I'm in this role of like supervising her take her medication and, keeping a log of her medication and like any of that kind of thing. It's a lot more of just like, I think, just trying to be like a supportive presence in terms of like, in terms of reminding, really. Okay, so speaking about medication, one thing that I want to bring up for people who might be in a similar situation. First, Lauren will talk to me when she's feeling like she's struggling to take medication or she's struggling with medication. And after, having been through this experience a lot in terms of talking about struggling to take medication, I kind of have this go-to script for how I deal with that situation that might be helpful for other people. So the first thing that I say is that, she's in control of taking medication. If she doesn't want to take medication or she wants to stop medication or change medication, she's in control of that. And she really is. But what I suggest is if she wants to change her medication or stop her medication, or she's not pleased with the side effect, what she needs to do is she needs to talk to her doctor about that. And her doctor can hopefully help her deal with side effects or adjust her medication to kind of make things better. And then, when things get really bad, I guess, and she doesn't want to take her medication at all, usually my approach there is to suggest that, okay, like, again, it's like I'm not forcing her to take the medication, because if I'm in a position where I'm saying like, no, you have to take a medication, or I'm getting mad at her because of that just, it hasn't worked in the past. I wouldn't see it working well in the future. It's just not something that we go to. It just causes a lot of conflict. So my approach there is to say, okay, if you want to go off your medication or just change your medication completely, like what you need to do is you need to taper. You can't just cold turkey quit a medication, because you're basically asking to go to the hospital if that's the situation. The symptoms are going to like kind of overwhelm you. If you're going to change medication or quit medication, even against the opinion of your doctor, you need to taper it. That's pretty much the only way you're going to successfully do it without landing in the hospital. So I hope that little bit helps other people who might be in a similar situation, if their partners or the people they're supporting are, struggling with taking medication, and what that dialogue can look like. Okay, the next topic that I'm going to move on to is around the idea of me being in like a caregiver role. So I am not Lauren's caregiver. I don't manage her like, on a day-to-day basis. My role, I think, is a lot more about just kind of trying to support her. And I don't even know that it's support in terms of beyond like what I think people just regularly support each other in relationships. I know that like if you knew that your partner was struggling with something, like work related, for example, or life related, you would want to support your partner the best way that you could. And sometimes that is listening, and sometimes that's like lending a helping hand, or running an errand or something like that. And I think that is a lot more like what defines how I try to support her with respect to schizophrenia. I think that a lot more of it comes down to things like, reminding her to take her meds, or sometimes picking up her meds from the drugstore for her. Reminders about like keeping up with life stuff, kind of taking note maybe if it seems like she hasn't gotten enough sleep, or if maybe like, she seems restless and it would be like a good idea to go for a walk, kind of things like that. So for the most part, I think that we have pretty good boundaries in place in terms of knowing that like, I'm not going to do everything for her, and that expectation isn't there, and that like I want to help her, but kind of knowing like how much is the right amount of help, and how much is me overstepping my bounds. And it's been messy, kind of getting to that place and figuring that out, like where boundaries are. But I think we've fallen into that okay. And then it gets a little bit challenging when, like in the past, when there have been situations when Lauren hasn't been well, and how those boundaries shift and reshift. And I think there does need to be some flexibility. So, if it's a state where Lauren is slipping into psychosis or coming back from the hospital, which has really only happened like once, that's when I think maybe the caregiver role kind of becomes a little bit more prevalent. So, and it's things like, when to call for help, and being an advocate for her in the hospital to make sure that she doesn't get abused or assaulted like has happened in the past, and making sure that she gets the like care that she needs, being present with her with doctor appointments, because sometimes, especially when she's in psychosis, she's on stronger medications and different medications, and like she has not remembered, like she's not even remembered having the doctor's appointments or what was said at the doctor's appointments. So kind of being more of a person there who could keep a record of like what has happened. And also in those situations, making sure the like basics are met, like that she's eating enough and that she's sleeping enough and that kind of thing. But, that kind of caregiver role really only happens when she's really unwell. So I spent a lot of time in this video talking honestly about the challenges that we have faced so far in our relationship. And maybe you're wondering, like, why are we even together if there's these challenges? I hope that that's not the case. I haven't spent really any time at all talking about why it is we're in a relationship together and why our relationship works. And I do want to spend, a couple minutes talking about that. So the first thing is that, why does any relationship work? And that's because two people love each other. And it doesn't mean that there's no problems in the relationship. And if there was problems, that those people wouldn't love each other. There's challenges in every relationship, and figuring out how to navigate those challenges. I think that kind of makes a relationship stronger, and us, the work that we've put into trying to navigate the challenges that we faced, I think has made our relationship stronger and our love for each other stronger. I think I've talked a lot about the ways that I support Lauren in this video. And I think that it's really important to point out that Lauren supports me too. And I feel like there is a really, there's a really great exchange between us in terms of how we support each other. And I need to acknowledge the family and friends who are our support network and who support our relationship and our life as well. Like, we wouldn't be able to do it without them. And that it's really important to be building, I think, a really great support network. And another thing that I think is really important is therapy. I go to therapy independently. Lauren goes to therapy independently. We also go to couples therapy. And it's not something that I think we lean on as a crutch in our life. That's how our relationship survives, is a lot of therapy. I think that therapy is something that everybody should be doing in general. But I do think that it's important in a relationship where, one or both partners have a chronic mental illness, or just even a chronic illness in general. I do think that therapy is an important aspect of dealing with some of the challenges that come up, and having somebody, a professional who can help you navigate those situations, is immensely helpful. And then finally, I think a reason our relationship works is that we have a lot of common interests and shared values. And, I won't list those all out, but, we're two people who I think we get along really well. So I hope that this has helped give you a better perspective maybe on what it's like to be in a relationship, or be the lover of someone who has a chronic mental illness. That was a bit of a clickbaity title. I think that, I've come to understand that Lauren's diagnosis and the symptoms that kind of come along with it, they're going to be a presence in our life in one way or another. And it's not going to be something that's just going to go away. And we can work together to try to accommodate it and try to manage it the best that we can. But I think that it totally is possible to grow a meaningful, loving, healthy relationship with someone, even if they have a chronic mental illness. And more importantly, I think you can do it in a way that that diagnosis doesn't define your relationship. So I want to know, do you support someone in your life who has schizophrenia, whether they're a partner or a loved one? Do you have any tips for supporting that person, challenges that you've faced, and ways you figured out a way to navigate around those challenges? Please share with me and others in the comments below. I'd really appreciate it. Okay, I hope that you have found this video helpful. If you did, make sure to give it a like and don't forget to subscribe. Also, if you want to help support the creation of future videos like this, please check out the link to our Patreon page in the description below. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next video. Bye.